Good evening. Today's presentation is Palm Desert Decades of Development. If you like our videos, please like and subscribe. And if you'd like to get notifications, hit the notification bell below. If you'd like to join the Historical Society of Palm Desert, please go to www.hspd.org and hit the join button. Thank you.
It's been called a sparkling jewel, an oasis, a breathtaking area of California reflecting the natural beauty of a desert in perfect harmony with the imagination and creativity of man, expressed in every phase of development that has occurred in this extraordinary community. Located in the geographic center of the Coachella Valley, 100 miles east of Los Angeles, Palm Desert provides residents and visitors with a spirit of community, a wealth of activities, and ideal weather not found in many other places. Always an excellent vacation spot, Palm Desert has, over the last 50 years, evolved into one of the most desirable places to live and work in Southern California. But it hasn't always been that way. Not long ago, Palm Desert was just a dream many didn't believe would ever materialize. There was nothing here, nothing in this vast, barren land except blowing sand and sometimes intense heat. If you look at a map of the Coachella Valley from the late 20s, you'll find Palm Springs to the west, Indio to the east, and right in the middle an area labeled Sandhole, a rather bleak description of what was later destined to become a world-renowned destination. In fact, it wasn't until the late 1920s that the first homestead appeared at what is now the corner of Highway 111 and 74. But times were changing. During the 1930s, Palm Village was nothing more than a stopping place between the cities on either end of the valley. World and national news focused on the Great Depression and Hitler's rise to power. The Empire State Building opened in New York, and Hollywood unveiled a classic as Gone with the Wind made its debut. As these events occurred around the world, Palm Village remained basically unchanged, a few homesteads scattered here and there among many citrus and date groves along the main thoroughfare. But life for those brave souls who first settled in Sandhole would be changed forever. The decade of the 40s was wrought with dramatic, sometimes terrifying events in the world outside of Palm Village.
Warriors of Japan had thrown down the challenge.
World War II and the atrocity of the Holocaust had a profound effect on all Americans, including those who lived here. It was during this time that one event in particular drew national attention to this area of the desert for the first time. As American troops prepared to enter a war in North Africa's Sahara Desert, military commanders deemed it necessary to provide a training facility which offered conditions similar to those where their men would soon do combat. General Patton chose Palm Village. His Desert Tank Corps established a base of operations here in 1942, and unknown at the time, Palm Village was on the map forever. Still basically an agricultural community, the idea was beginning to stir that this may be a good place to develop a town, right here in the middle of this desert valley. As the first jet took to the air, Frank Sinatra captured hearts of teenage girls everywhere.
Until I hear you at the door, until you're in my arms once more.
Edgar Bergen, Candace's father and one of the era's top stars of radio and film, did something that set the stage for the future development of Palm Desert. He invited his good friend Clifford Henderson to visit his ranch.
Cliff looked at it and reminded him of Marrakesh. He fell in love with it, and he said, what a place for a community. And so then he enlarged that to a community of your dreams, and he said to Edgar, let's do it.
But as the end of 1945 drew near, Clifford Henderson looked at the Santa Rosa Mountains rising from the desert floor and began to draw his dream of a perfect community in the sand. He saw something no one else did, but it was a dream. The challenge at hand, what to do to attract attention to this barren land which, at the end of the war, consisted of just 6 small houses along Highway 111. His idea was to build a resort, a desert resort unlike anything anyone could imagine. But to make it special, he needed something unique. And what more unique to the desert than water? After several tries, Henderson and his band of engineers located exactly what they were looking for 600 feet below the sand-crusted surface of the desert. Plentiful, fresh water. He recruited financial assistance from everywhere he could, receiving little if any support from friends who did not believe in this crazy dream. But persistence paid off, with a turning point coming when Leonard Firestone agreed that Cliff's idea had merit. As a result of Firestone's endorsement, other investors followed, and the dream was in position to become reality. The Palm Desert Corporation was formed, with Clifford Henderson as its president. By the end of 1946, Shadow Mountain Resort, with its man-made lake, figure-8 pool, and numerous amenities designed to offer something for everyone, was complete, and the rest of Palm Desert had been laid out according to plan. The entire resort represented a $1 million investment and boasted 900 family memberships originating from 28 states. El Paseo, the Fifth Avenue of the desert, would soon be developed with specific businesses sought to fill every need of area visitors. The first market opened that same year, closely followed by the construction of George Washington Elementary School, one of California's first charter schools. Land along Highway 111 was sold for between $25 and $50 per acre, up from $10 per acre just 6 years earlier. The only problem was finding someone who wanted it, but as you can imagine, it didn't take long for business owners to see the bright future of Palm Desert. From sandhole to desert oasis, Palm Desert was coming of age, but still had a long way to go. The difference now was that it was no longer just one man's dream.
Record numbers throng into the Coliseum for the 42nd National Automobile Show. It's being held in New York for the first time in 16 years.
It's now the 1950s. The United States faces challenges in Korea, Cuba, and Suez. Eisenhower, a frequent visitor to the desert, is elected president. Fidel Castro rises to power. The H-bomb is developed, and civil rights becomes an issue in this country for the first time. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, broke the hearts of young girls everywhere as he married Priscilla. Through nearly 2 decades of turmoil, war, and major social issues, Palm Desert managed to stay focused on the future. A future that got a little help from the technology of the day, without which the desert would have never been developed. Air conditioning. In 1951, Ed Mullins opened Palm Desert's first pharmacy. 6 years later, Keaty's popular soda fountain was in business, and the now famous Shadow Mountain Resort added a golf course in 1959. And yes, all these businesses are still operating today.
A dark page in the annals of America has been written to the crack of an assassin's bullet. The nation mourns, the world grieves.
The Berlin Wall divided a nation, and Vietnam became the latest battle zone. As the Beatles stepped foot on American soil for the first time, NASA was planning a future mission that would change the space race forever. Palm Desert's 3,000 full-time residents watched with the rest of the world as Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. Palm Desert now had its first annual event, a parade featuring golf carts. There was now a Palm Desert Country Club, and the desert's first institute of higher learning, College of the Desert, was under construction on Amos Odell's 160-acre date ranch. The money used to build the college was generated by a bond issue passed in 1959. It was thought that as many as 2,500 students would enroll. Today, enrollment is well over 15,000. 1973 is the year of maturity, specifically November 26, 1973, when Palm Desert officially became the 16th city in Riverside County. With this stature, Palm Desert moved forward with bigger and brighter plans for the future. Plans that would take the city to its current position as a leader in the Coachella Valley. The first major challenge faced by the young city dealt with the unpredictable forces of nature. In 1976, Palm Desert was ravaged by severe flooding, forcing city and civic leaders to not only design a long-range flood plan, but at the same time devise a way to pay for the necessary improvements. As a result of their actions, the implementation of an extensive flood control program and a strong commitment to the future, Palm Desert was on the verge of becoming a dynamic, growing city. The population grew to 15,000. The local economy began to take shape, with additional retail areas being developed. The living desert opened as the city's first and most unique attraction.
And I think, too, that I could say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
We were all stunned and embarrassed by Watergate and the resignation of a president. 3 Mile Island frightened us the same as it did everyone else. And we rejoiced with the end of the Vietnam War. The planning of the 70s led to remarkable growth for Palm Desert in the 80s. In an effort to provide citizens with a quality of life not found anywhere else in the valley, Palm Desert experienced a growth level that placed it among the top 3 cities in the state of California. The Palm Desert Town Center opened as the only regional mall in the area in late 1983.
It became a project that the whole community bought into. And I think that the day we opened the doors to the Palm Desert Town Center is the day we went from a small village to a city.
A strong commitment to higher education continued as California State University opened a satellite campus in 1986. In 1987, the Marriott Desert Springs Resort and Spa opened as the chain's flagship resort. And the McCollum Theater for the Performing Arts was completed in 1988. The groves that once belonged to Farmer Cook gave way to a thriving business park on the street that now bears his name. During this time, 3 men, an actor, a peanut farmer, and an oil man, were elected President of the United States. During the first 20 years since its incorporation, Palm Desert had experienced phenomenal growth and development. Guided by secure, stable civic and political leadership, the community has enriched the lives of all residents and provided an economically sound environment for business development. During the decade of the 1990s, we watched the world battleground move to remote countries in the Gulf. We witnessed the fall of communism and watched in awe as the Berlin Wall was dismantled. These events provided a dateline for the events that have molded the city of Palm Desert. Not willing to rest on past laurels, Palm Desert moved into the 90s with a clear vision of what must be accomplished in the future. Palm Desert High School opened in 1991 to meet the needs of a younger, growing population. A new City Hall and Civic Center park followed the next year, and a joint venture between Palm Desert, Riverside County, and College of the Desert provided the impetus for the new library, which opened in 1996. As the first city in the U.S. to legalize golf carts for street use, Palm Desert continuously seeks ways to protect its environment. Recycling plays a major role in the city's waste management program. Palm Desert was one of the first cities in California to institute a citywide recycling program. Also in 1996, city leaders developed an award-winning affordable housing community called Desert Rose, giving young families the opportunity of owning their own homes in Palm Desert. Additional retail sites have been added, such as Desert Crossing, and the expansion of El Paseo is well underway. Desert Willow opened as the first city-owned golf resort.
This is a day of celebration for the city of Palm Desert, and this is your golf course, so let's enjoy it. Great.
And with that, Desert Willow's grand opening tournament began. President Gerald Ford and Palm Desert Mayor Dick Kelly were among the local dignitaries that christened the city's newest public course.
Continuing to place emphasis on higher education, the city deeded 220 acres of land to Cal State University, San Bernardino, for the construction of a new four-year college. Palm Desert has come of age. There are more than 40,000 full-time residents. The city is the center of shopping, dining, entertainment, and education in the Coachella Valley. Sandhole has turned out to be quite a place. Leonard Firestone was right. Cliff Henderson's dream did have merit. As witnessed by the historical events from around the world, and right here in Palm Desert, change is inevitable. To those men and women who guided the changes necessary to transform this barren land into the wonderful community it has become, we thank you.
Don used to jokingly, somebody would say, how'd you come to, the end of Palm Desert? And I would say, we ran out of gas here.
But it still has that wonderful small town atmosphere. You still go in and all the people that work here are always so gracious and nice, and I love it. I'm glad I stayed. It's been I'm in my 26th year, and I think I'm gonna buy. I like it now, so I might stay.
I came down to look at it, and it was just, the end of the world. I figured I was really being shipped to the finish line. I said, I'll go down there and I'll paint it and I'll stay for a while, but I said, that's deserted. I said, that's a ghost town. No way will I live there. I said, give me 3 months and I'm out of there because I got to get back to action and people. Anyway, 35, 40 years later, I'm still there, and it was really great.
It's been really fun to be a part of the growth of this area, to be on the ground floor, as you might say, and see what's happened.
We've done a good job of finding a better place to live and making it something that's worthwhile.
Well, you were here before, so you know what it's like. It was terrible.
It was terrible.
Yeah. It's a fantastic difference, change.
Today, even when some developer will come into town and say, well, it's only an empty sand lot, and say, yeah, but we happen to like them here. We like those empty sand lots. We don't have any left.
Somebody said, I don't know, that once you get sand in your shoes, it's hard to get out. But
there really wasn't much here in those early years, how much it's really, really changed. And Palm Springs was supposed to be the place to be. And it's turned out Palm Desert is the place to be, isn't it?